Hello everyone, welcome to OneClass. My name is Shanjida and today I'll be going over some commonly asked chemistry questions both at the high school / university and college levels. And currently I am a second year human biology student. And lastly, if anyone needs additional schoolwork help or needs tutoring services, you guys could check the description box below. And other than that, we'll get started. Okay, so our first question here um, says how can you convert centimeters to millimeters? So this is a conversion question. So basically, there's a conversion factor between centimeters and meters. However, to convert centimeters to millimeters, we will use the relationship between meters and centimeters. And so basically, the conversion factor between centimeter and meter is that 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. Okay, while the relationship between a meter and millimeter is, so you have 1 meter is equal to 1000 millimeter. Okay, and so when you multiply the conversion factors together, we would have, if you have 1 meter over 100 centimeters, and you multiply this with 1000 millimeters over 1 meter, you would have, so you would cancel, these two would cancel out, and what you have is, you would have 1000 millimeters over 100 centimeters. Would be 100 centimeters, and so this would equal to 10 millimeters over centimeters. Okay, so you have this as your answer, and then therefore you can say that therefore to convert centimeters to millimeters, we need to multiply the given centimeter measurement meter by 10. Okay, so by a factor of 10, and that's how you would get millimeters. Okay, so this is the answer. Second question says, what is ethanol? And so ethanol, I'll just write this, ethanol is also known as ethyl alcohol. So a shorter abbreviation to write it would be ETOH. Okay, and so this is also known as ethyl alcohol. So I'll just say it's also known as ethyl alcohol. So by the name, you can see that this is a type of alcohol and is used in different industries. It is also found in a range of chemicals like in beauty products, paints, fuel, And ethanol is, so ethanol is a clear, is basically a clear um, liquid, and it is a very polar molecule. So it is a clear liquid and very polar. So this makes it easy to dissolve in water. In water. Okay, and so the production of ethanol is basically through the fermentation of agricultural products such as sugarcane, corn, and others. Also, ethanol is it is also an organic compound, which means it it is basically made out of carbons and hydrogens. Okay, and so they so it's under the group of alcohol as the name suggests. So you can we can derive the chemical formula by knowing that since it is an alcohol, we know that it would have an alcohol group attached to it. So basically, the chemical formula is CH3, or let's write it. So it's going to be C2H5OH. Okay, or you can write it as CH3, or it could be CH3, CH2, OH. And this is how if you break it down, you would write it like that. And the way you would draw this out, a skeletal structure of it, basically, or simple diagram, you would draw it like this. So you have C, H2, H2, you'd have an H here and an OH. Okay, so this is your alcohol group. This is where it gets the name ethanol. The OL at ethanol means it has an alcohol group attached to it. Okay. And so yeah, this is correct. So the next question says basically what is square root of 64, and to do this we can basically say, to do this we have so square root of square root of 64, and so the square root of 60. Okay. And so what we can do basically is break this down. So let's have 64 and break this down into its common multiples. And so we know that 64, if you divide it by 8, right, you have 8 times 8, and you can further break down 8. You have 4 2, 4 times 2. You can break down 4 even further, so you have 2 and 2, 2 and 2, right? So in this case, our least common multiple, or our smallest multiple in this case, are 2. In this case, you can see we have one group of 2 here, group of 2 here, and one group of 2 here, right? So in this case, we have 3 groups of 2. So we're going to express this under a square root. So we have square root of 64 is equal to the square root of, we have, so we're going to express all the 3 groups of 2 in this W. Right? And so what we're going to do next, we can basically say, um, we can basically have we can basically multiply, or we can basically say, we can basically, group these two together. So you have 2 squared, 2 squared, and another 2 squared, right? And in this case, your squares would get cut out because of the square root, so you're just left with, so you're just left with 2 times 2 times 2, and so 2 times 2 times 2 is basically 2 cubed, and this is equal to 8. So the root of 64 is equal to 8. And so this is correct. Okay, so our next question here says, what is the formula for the radius of a semicircle? Okay, so let me draw out the semicircle here. And so this is, there's a dotted line in the middle. And so we're trying to find out the radius of this part of the semicircle. So if to find out the radius of the semicircle, we first have to address the area of the semicircle. So the area, the area of a circle is the area of a circle, a full circle, is a. So a for a is equal to pi r squared. So as you can see, semi means half. So the area of a semicircle is equal to, so the area is equal to half of the area of a circle. So half pi r squared. Okay. So from this, we can solve for the radius and basically come up with an equation that represents um, radius in terms of area, basically. So solving, we say solving for the radius, which is r. So let's have our equation here, which is a equal to half pi r squared. Okay, so the next thing what we're gonna do is move the half to the other side to basically, we're basically trying to remove or isolate r. So whatever's attached to it, so in this case it's a half and pi, we're gonna move it to the other side. And to do that, we need to change operations and signs. So in this case, since half is being multiplied by this whole term, if we bring it to the other side, it's gonna be in a division state. So we can basically say if we divide whole thing by two, or sorry, since this is half, so since the 2 in this case, or the half, is being in a division state, if it goes to the other side, it's going to be a multiplication state. So to get rid of this half, we would multiply both sides by 2. And so what you have, so you get rid of the 2 here, and you have 2a is equal to pi r squared. So now since we got rid of the half, the next thing we would want to do is get rid of the pi. And to do that, we would divide both sides by pi. Okay, and so you get rid of the pi. And so you have 2a is 2a over pi equals r squared. I'll just right here. And so since we didn't isolate r just quite yet, we have r squared. So to do that, we have to get rid of the square, and to get rid of the square, we have to square root both sides, since it's the inverse of square, so inverses cancel each other out. So we can say square root of r squared is equal to the square root of 2a over pi. And so you have, so those square roots get cancelled. So you have r is equal to the square root of 2a over pi. Okay, so this is how you isolate for r and for a semicircle, okay, which is half of a circle. And so, however, if you're given the diameter, in this case, we can also find the radius if you're given the diameter. So in this case, if we're talking about diameter of a semicircle, so we would draw a semicircle again, and a dotted line, or right, or no, not a dotted line. So we would have, so basically this whole line, your horizontal line here, represents the diameter. Okay. It is similar to that of a normal circle, where you can find the diameter by multiplying a radius time into 2, and you get your diameter. Okay. And so to find r in this case, you can say you would have to just move the 2 over to the other side. So you would just divide this by 2, and you get r is equal to p over 2. So this is one way to find r if you're given the diameter. I'll just write for diameter. Okay. And however, if you're given the parameter, let's say parameter, you can say the parameter of a semicircle is basically the sum of half the circumference. So you have, since we're dealing with a semicircle, we know that we're dealing with a semicircle, so it is equal to half of the circumference of a normal circle. So the formula for a parameter of a semicircle would be P is equal to 2 pi r over 2 plus the diameter. Okay. And so to isolate r in this case, we can further simplify this equation by getting rid of the 2 here. So you would have P is equal to pi r plus 2. So we want to put everything in terms of r. In this case, since we have 2 variables, we can express diameter with this equation that we have. R is equal to d over 2. Or d is equal to 2r. So we can basically say P is equal to 5 times r plus 2r. So we have only one variable to solve for. And further simplify this, we can factor this expression here by factoring out an r. So you have pi plus 2. Okay, and now we can further simplify this and isolate r. We can now basically divide each side by pi plus 2 to get rid of pi plus 2 that is attached to r. Divide this into 2. So you know these two cancel out. So you basically have p over 2 is equal to r, or you can say r is equal to p, your parameter, over pi plus 2. So these are three ways you can find the radius of a semicircle. Okay. So yeah, this is uh, says what is ln e to the power of x? Okay, so ln ln e to the power of x. Okay, so recall your log properties. So ln is the natural log function with base e. Okay, so you guys recall a property of log or a formula where let's say that your log base of e, right, of of let's say e to the power of x. So log e represents ln. Okay, so you can convert this into ln, and so your x in this case is e to the power of x. Ln, right? So it's just going to be ln e to the. So and if you guys recall that the multiplication rule for or the power rule for log, where you have log base, in this case let's say base 10 of a, the power of x is equal to x of a. Okay, so in this case, keeping this in mind, we can basically say that ln e to the power of x is equal to ln of e, which is equal to 1. Okay. And so you can use the property, so you can basically use the property above and say, oops, it's going to be x ln e, and you have, since ln e is equal to 1, and so we can basically say x times 1, and you have equal to x. So this is our next question says, what is the product of x plus 9 times x plus 9? So we're given two binomials and we're supposed to express this in a polynomial basically. So once we FOIL this out, x plus 9 times plus 1, and we're going to use FOIL in this case. FOIL use FOIL. Okay. And So what we do, we're just gonna distribute and multiply each term out. So we do first let's do x 1, then you do 9 times x, 9 times, right? So what we have, we get x squared plus x. So x times 1 is x squared, x times x is x squared. And then you have 9 times x, which is 9x, plus 9 times 1, which is 9, right? And then you can collect like terms. So you have x squared plus x plus 9x is plus 10x plus 9, right? And so what you have, so this is your product of this binomial, and this basically, and these are basically binomial. So this is we have that says, how do you evaluate two costs of whatever it is? So two costs of pi over 3 minus 6 tan of pi over 3. And so we're required to evaluate this function. And so using the unit circle, as you see here, the sine function takes the value of y. So we can basically say from unit circle this function, the function of sine function of sine is your y value, and the cosine function takes your x value, or the x coordinate of the point on the unit circle. So looking at the unit circle, the coordinates of the point corresponding to the angle pi over 3. So you can see pi over 3 is right here, which is 60 degrees. You can see that, so you can basically say from the unit circle that the points of pi over 3 from the unit circle are, you can see that it's half, 8 half, and root 3 over 2. Okay. So therefore you can say, so you know how this is your x and y. So therefore we can say that cos of pi over 3 is equal to half, and our sine of pi over 3 is equal to root 3 over 2, right? So using, so from our trigonometric identities, we can use the quotient identities, where or if you guys recall that tan of x is equal to sine x over cos x. Okay, so this is your ratio. So for tan, we can basically, for tan pi over 3, so we can say tan. We can say that this is sine pi over 3 over cos of pi over 3. Right, so we just substitute where there's an x, we just substitute pi over 3 because this is our angle or our point of interest. So we can further evaluate this because we have our points for sine of pi over 3 and cos of pi over 3. So sine pi over 3 is root 3 over 2 over 1 half. And what we get, very simplify this, if we bring this on top, the half, it's going to flip. So we have root 3 over 2, so it's going to become a multiplication, and you have 2 over 1. So the 2's get cancelled, and you basically have root 3. So tan of pi over 3 is equal to root 3. So now we're just going to substitute into our equation where we're trying to find out, basically we're trying to find out 2 cos. So 2 cos of pi over 3 minus 6 tan pi over 3, right? So we're just substituting the values that we just found into this equation. So we get 2. So we get 2, so cos of pi over 3 is a half minus 6. So tan of pi over 3 is root 3. And once you do the math, you basically get 1 minus 6. 3. Okay. And so this is your answer, 1 minus 6. So this is the solution. Okay, our next question says, how do you evaluate log of 10? Okay, so this is a logarithmic function. Log of n is equal to 1. Okay, so if you guys recall, the logarithmic function is the inverse of the exponential function. And so a basic formula or the basic outline of a log function is log base a of x is equal to y. And so this is the inverse of an exponential function. So you have x is equal to a to the power of y. So a is your base, and in this case, a is any numerical, so it's a is basically greater than 0, and in this case, your x is also okay, and so if you're trying to find out log base or log of 10, in this case log of 10 has a base of 10, so we don't, so if there's nothing written for the base, you just assume it's log, so it is log 10. So log of 10 means a, okay, but you don't really write it. And so where a is the base, right, and a is y as the exponent in this case, when x is equal to a, we say that this suggests that the exponent y is equal to 1. So for exponential, when we say when x is equal to a, that means y is equal to 1, right? So for log 10, since we just mentioned that there's no denoted base, the base is equal to 10, so we can say that log base 10 of 10 is equal to, so this is basically saying x is equal to a to the power of y, and in this case we're trying to find y, so we can say since x is 10, a is also 10, so we need to find a number that if the exponent will equal to 10, so in this case y would equal to 1, right? So we basically say, so log base 10 of 10 is equal to 1. Okay, so our next question here says, what is the square root of 25? Okay, so square root of 25. So is equal to what? So let's break down the square root of 25, or let's actually break down what's under the square root, which is 25. And so 25 is, so what we want to do is find the multiples of 25, and we know that there are only basically 4, which is 1 times 25. In this case, that won't be it. And another one is 5 times 5, so we have 5. And you can't really break down 5 even further to get a whole number. What we're going to do is take these two 5s and express this under a square root. So you basically get square root of 25 is equal to the square root of 5. And we can write this as 5 squared. And so your squares would get canceled out because the square and square root are inverse. And you basically get the square root of 25 is, yes, so it's going to be plus or minus. That is. So as how do you find the exact value of cos inverse of 0? So that means the negative 1, that's the x1, that means the inverse. So cos inverse of 0 is equal to 1. So basically the inverse cosine, or it's also called, so this is basically inverse of cosine, or it's also called arc cosine. And so this can be defined as, you can write this as cos of theta, or an angle, is equal to x, which is a number, and the inverse of this would be cos inverse of x is equal to theta. So this is where you find the angle. In this case, we're trying to find the angle of cos of 0. And so given that our cos our inverse of cos of 0, we need to find the angle that will make x equal to 0, basically. And so from the unit circle, we know that cosine is only 0 when n in this case, so we can say cosine is equal to 0 when you can say theta, or the angle of, that represents the cosine, when theta is equal to n, right? Where n is an integer, so it's basically represents a number, and where n is an integer. And so therefore you can say cos, so from the unit circle you can see that where, so if you have a cosine function here, it is the cosine function, right? And this is your pi over 2, right? And so on. And so you can say that the inverse, so basically what you can say is inverse, cos inverse of 0 is equal to pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. And so so this is within the range where, in the range of, so theta, when theta is equal, is in between the range of 0 and, right? And so this is basically when theta is so this is when your x so your x is 0 and your theta would equal pi over 2 or 2 pi over 2. Okay. Okay, so our next question says, what is sine of negative 90 degrees? So we have here sine of negative 90 degrees. And so we have to find the value which this equals to. And so what we can say is we can basically add, so we're trying to find a positive angle, that represents negative 90. And to do that, we're converting the negative angle to a positive angle. So they convert negative angle to positive angle. And to do that, we can use a unit circle over here, right? That's given. And we can see basically negative 90 would be on the opposite side over here, somewhere over here. And to do that, we would have to add 360 or 2 pi, which is also known as 2 pi. So we have negative 90. We would have to add something greater than negative 90 in this case to get a positive angle, which is within the unit circle. So to do that, it's always 2 pi, which is also 360 degrees, right? You would do plus 360 degrees. and you get 270. And if you guys recall, that sine of 270 degrees, which is also known, this is also 3 pi over 2, okay, is equal to -1. So we can see this from our unit circle, where it is equal to -1. Okay, it's right here, it's equal to negative, so it's negative, and it would be -1. Okay, so basically you can say that sine of -90 degrees is equal to sine of 270 degrees. So these are related angles, and this is equal to -1. And this is correct. Our next question says, what is the pH of salt and vinegar? And so basically the pH of salt is neutral, and this is, so pH of salt is neutral. This is because a salt is formed by, because salt is formed by a neutralization reaction. So this is between an acid and base. And so when you have a strong acid and a strong base, of a strong acid and strong. Okay, so when you're reacting a strong acid and a strong base, it would give you a neutral compound, or with a pH of basically neutral or close to 7. However, so for example, we can have a common example, which is HCl plus NaOH, aqueous. This would give you your common table salt, which is NaCl, and would produce water. That's H2O. Okay, so your salt in this case would be neutral, and this is because it's formed by two strong components, which is a strong acid and a strong base. However, the pH of vinegar is usually very acidic. So pH of vinegar is around, as it stated, it's around 3 to 4, and which is acidic. Which is acidic. Okay. This is also because vinegar, as you can see, it's kind of a strong, and it's a bit floury, and this is why this is how you can know it's kind of acidic, and that's why it doesn't really taste neutral or doesn't taste close to water. And this is because vinegar is acidic. This is what they've got. And so basically, that was the end of our session. If you like this Q&A, please give it a thumbs up and share and comment on this video, and most importantly, subscribe to the One Class channel. And if anyone um, has additional questions or wants one-on-one tutoring services, you guys could follow the links in the description box and ask your questions. Other than that, I'm Shanjida, and I'll hope to see you. Bye bye.